a deliberate plan by Donald Trump to just get rid of NATO. And it started 2 weeks ago when he turned over or directed Hegseth to turn over to the Brits responsibilities for this Ukrainian support group. This group is supposedly comprised of 50 nations, and the U.S. used to chair it and bring people together to shake them down, to give us this, give us that, give us money, give us tank. Well, Trump said, no, we're not doing that anymore. The Brits can be in charge. Well, putting the Brits in charge of that actually puts the onus up on them. It takes the United States out of the picture. So this, we heard for, 4 years of Joe Biden about how united NATO was. NATO's, oh man, they're really couldn't be stronger. It's not, it is, we proved this not the case. In the immediate aftermath of that Munich Security Conference, where Vance correctly called out the Europeans for their hypocrisy. And, just a simple illustration. I could take you to Moscow today, have you go to the Red Square, and have you bow your head, have you get down on your knees and be visibly praying. And you know what would happen to you? Nothing.
Right.
You would be allowed to pray.
Right.
I can take you to London and to go outside the Parliament. Have you do the same thing? You would be arrested and put in jail. So who's the authoritarian? Who's the totalitarian dictator? It ain't Putin. It's the Brits. It's the Germans. I mean, the Germans are, as we saw the other night on the 60 Minutes piece, they're arresting people for what they post on social media. That if you voice an opinion or express support, it's one thing if you go on social media and say, I'm going to kill, I'm going to kill the president. He ought to be dead. Okay. That is in any legal jurisdiction, at least in the United States, that's called assault. That is a criminal act. You are assaulting somebody. You're making a threat to inflict violence. So, that's one thing to police that, but to endorse, say, somebody who's making fun of transgender claims that men can have babies, and then to, prosecute them, wrong. So, what, Vance, to his credit, called the Germans and the French and the Brits out for that. And they were stunned, absolutely stunned. They didn't know what to do. And so immediately Macron assembled a meeting with a select group on Monday in Paris, French, the Brits, the Germans, the Ruta, fond of Lion, Ursula von der Leyen, but I call her fond of lying. And, the people that they thought they could count on, and they failed to come to a consensus. They were actually fighting with each other. We're going to send troops. No, we're not going to send troops. Well, we're going to send, they couldn't decide whether to send troops or not. They couldn't decide how much money, and they could make any agreement they want about, oh yeah, let's give them $700 billion. They couldn't scrape up, 70 cents between them probably. So this was a pretty remarkable event, historic.
Yeah, it's interesting because they said, the whole money aspect, where are they going to get the money? That's what I would immediately thought of. But then really what I'm thinking of here is, okay, what's next then? Is it just going to be like, who's going to pay for NATO? Which again, this couldn't happen sooner in my mind. And that's just my opinion, but yeah, what's going to happen? How do you see this playing out? And then after that, talk to me about the relationship between Trump and Putin as you see it. I say it's complicated, or it's a complicated thing, but I don't know if it is or not. Tell me about that.
Well, as far as funding NATO, I think it's gonna wither away. It's not gonna fall apart overnight, but it is gonna wither away. The United States is not gonna be stepping up and increasing budget for it. That falls under the Pentagon anyway. And there's going to be an increased, I think the Trump's vision is pretty good. We've been in Europe now for 80 years. World War II ended 80 years ago, May. What are we still doing there? I mean, when do you come home? When do you say our work is finished here? Because what, do you stay another 80 years or 400 years? I mean, what you got to come to recognize that you step back and say, okay, are these countries, number one, capable of defending themselves if they make it a priority? Well, the answer to that is yes. But most are not capable of defending themselves because they haven't made it a priority. Well, if you had a friend that every time you guys went out to bars or to restaurants, and your friend always paid the bill, yeah, he's a great friend to have. You don't have to pay a cent, man. Yeah, I'll go with you, sure. The time that he comes out and says, "Hey, man, I forgot my wallet. You got to pay." You go, "Oh, well, wait a second, man. I'm just not ready for that." So, um, the other thing is, what's the threat? Russia's not going to invade them, and it has been Europe that has consistently, over the last 20 years, along with the United States, carried out military exercises to threaten Russia. So I think you're going to see a gradual withering away of NATO. It's become irrelevant. As to the relationship between Putin and Trump, it's not a warm personal relationship at all. From Putin's standpoint, he's not sure he can trust Trump. Donald Trump, when in his first term, sent weapons to Ukraine that were used to attack and kill Russians. Donald Trump walked away, abrogated the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Agreement to control intermediate range ballistic missiles. And then Donald Trump continued to enforce and allow sanctions against Russia to continue, didn't lift them. So, in terms of this relationship, the onus is on Trump. I mean, it's really like, if you have an estranged couple and one partner is the one who, cheated on the other and, is guilty of physical abuse and wants to come back and get into the relationship, the one who was victimized is going to say, we'll take this slow. We'll wait and see. You're going to have to see some, visible proof that there's a change. So in this, while Trump in his public pronouncements with respect to Putin and Russia suggests that, the United States is sort of compelling Putin, forcing Putin into some of these positions, the opposite is the truth. Putin saying, okay, well, yeah, we'll sit and talk. Yeah, let's talk. You want to meet? Okay, let's meet. You want us to stop fighting? No. And hell no. We're not going to stop fighting until you guys cut off all your aid to Ukraine, until you guys stop supplying mercenaries to Ukraine, until you stop supplying intelligence to Ukraine. You stop first. Then we'll talk. But beyond that, we can talk about, having relations where we can have our diplomats or ambassadors in place, and we can expand, the consulates can be allowed to reopen. Yeah, we can do all of that. But Ukraine it's not going to end on your terms, Donald. It's going to end on mine. That's where Putin is.